today we have Ethan Williams, who is, I don't know, I didn't know what a Tai Chi was, and I don't know, it's probably been 6 months. I'm still very much a beginner, but yoga hurts me for the most part unless it's Jane's class where it doesn't hurt. Tai Chi is like, I don't know, it's just so medicinal. And there's something very special about Ethan, and he has a lot of analogies when he teaches to help me at least understand, how to make the move. So we're honored to have him. He has been working with us at the farm for over a month. So he's been with the instructors helping us, and then being with the horses a little bit. So it's all worked out really cool. You all had his bio already, so I won't read that. I do want to share September 19th, we're having a sound bath, and that will be on the events on the webpage also. That's tied with the autumn equinox. So that'll be fun. Anyway, without further ado, he also gives great hugs, not to embarrass you.
That raises the expectation.
Welcome. Stand for a moment, please. Just before we start talking and getting into it, it's better we kind of drop into our bodies first. So just stand for a moment and let out a breath. Good. Right hand up, or right fist rather, and left palm. Bow. Good. Now, mindfully and intentionally have a seat. Commit to sitting down as if nothing else mattered. Let's just do that first, quietly and intentionally. Thank you. Connect your feet to the ground. Back straight. And just rest your hands on your knees. And let go of any unnecessary tension, starting from the top of your head, and let it drain down to the bottom of your feet. So your crown, your forehead, your ears, your jaw, your nose, your cheek. You continue down your neck, your shoulders. Let your shoulders hang down and separate from your head so that your neck has room. Continue down past the shoulders, your chest, your spine, abdomen, your lower back, down to the pelvis. Just breathe naturally. If you feel there's any point that there's tension, you can direct your breath and your awareness to that point and sort of saturate it with awareness and ease and let it go. Continue downwards. Your thighs, hamstring, through your knees, your calves, your shins, through the ankle, to the bottom of your feet. And feel your heel, ball of foot, and the 10 toes connect to the earth. And just let all the tension from the crown drain all the way down and out the feet into the earth. And breathe in. And squeeze everything out. Exhale. One more. Deep breath in. Release. Okay. Open your eyes. Good. It's a little better. So yes, Tai Chi. Has anyone practiced Tai Chi before? You have? For a long time or just?
Nah, for a short bit.
Do you know what style you did?
No, the lady also taught Kung Fu,
Okay.
so it was just basic Kung Fu and basic Tai Chi.
Good. Me too. Tai Chi means supreme ultimate. And it's basically talking about the relationship between the two energies of yin and yang. Tai Chi is basically rooted in Taoist principle, Taoist philosophy, so that is the foundation of it. Everything that we see in the universe, every experience is a combination of those two energies, yin and yang. So you have someone speaking, you have someone listening. You give and you receive. Even that is the play of those two energies, which make a moment complete. Now, coming back to just the body and the energy part, the different parts of the body are composed of yin and yang to different ratios. Your organs, you have them paired, the yin organ, the yang organ, the solid organ, the hollow organ. Then even just the outside part. This part is the yin, the yang skin, and it comes all the way up to here. And then the yin part is the inside part. So we'll say like yin is like the broken line. So this part that can bend and that's soft. So the yin and yang, how the body looks, it's like the two come together. And then you have yang that wraps and covers and surrounds like heaven. And then you have yin that's in the middle and that's solid and it's stable like earth. So the two energies work together to complete anything. So the point is never that you prefer one over the other. It's if you're out of balance, then you try to reconcile the two energies. You see? So then Tai Chi, which is a martial art, actually, it's all about how you connect to those two energies. And on one level, it's how you meet an opponent. On another level, it's just to restore your health, your well-being, whether mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, all the different planes of the human experience that principle can be applied to. But my main intention isn't so much to teach you all of Tai Chi, but to use the tools to sort of come back to ourselves, back to our body, back to our mind, back to our heart, back to the spirit. And that shows up in how we interact with any moment. So a lot of times people will say, well, if Tai Chi is for fighting, if Tai Chi is so peaceful, how do you make sense of it for fighting or for martial arts? It's not just as far as fighting, as far as if someone's there and you're trying to evade, but any moment of conflict or where there's a resistance, the point is to be aware and to be sensitive enough to that so that you can adjust and move and flow with that thing. So whether it's just you're not understanding something or if the horse isn't listening, any of these different things, it's a reflection of how you are and then you adjust. So actually being here with all the teachers and learning about horses, I see that everyone understands Tai Chi. We all express it in our own way. But now the point is to kind of take that step back and to turn that light on our own heart, our own body and mind, and give that same sensitivity and awareness that we apply when we're with the horse. We use this practice to apply it to our own selves in the moment. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Any questions so far? I was supposed to talk for like 30 minutes, but the point is, as we go into it and you kind of feel and you experience your body in the tight spots and you release, or you feel the energy and you move, it's something that you have to do it to have the questions. Otherwise, there's nothing to talk about. So we'll practice some things inside for a moment, just so we can kind of get inside our own being, you know.
I do have a question.
Okay, good.
The yin and yang,
Mm-hmm.
two energies, are there any characteristics of the two energies? I mean, I understood what you said by,
Yeah.
the outside and the inside, are there characteristics of the
Yeah, okay. So a lot of times it gets reduced to just male, female, and hard and soft and all. Those are all aspects. So yin and yang are literally, you're just talking about the full range of extremes of one thing. You see what I mean? So, like say we just talk about the hand. It is one hand, but it has the different parts. This part would be the yin part, the inside. So yin is like the soft part that can change, that's fluid, you know, or that's receptive. So like say when we have a yin practice, we go into that. It's almost like you would just be so soft and gentle, you know. You don't have any tension anywhere, and you just kind of just melt into each thing you do. And you don't want to pull anything, you don't want to rush. There's not even a stirring of dust. The yang part is often characterized as the more masculine part, or the more aggressive, or hard, and all these things. And that's where you get more of the dynamic movement, or the dynamic expression, where you'd be moving fast, or you have all these different things where it's just kind of explosive. Which is interesting, because say for the for the fighting part, exactly, that's explosive. My teacher would say it's you release it as if you sneeze, meaning that you gather the whole body and everything you do, it's in that movement. You know, if it's just a punch or whatever you're doing, it's that. The more relative expression of that for daily life is your whole being. You gather that and you're with that moment completely. There's no past, there's no future, there's just that moment. There's just the sitting, you know? Not anything else other than that thing. And it's like the deeper part is almost like you're going so slow to savor it. And that often comes back to Zen when we talk about being in the present, or there's often an analogy about death and impermanence. And because all these things are impermanent, you make it a point to be there with it completely. You don't let an ounce or a drop of anything get away. And all of that comes with just expanding your awareness. You know, this is gonna get more into like the esoteric or the mystical part, but no matter what you're looking at, what you're experiencing is a reflection of you, not just how we make sense of it through your senses. Those are your antenna. Your body is your antenna. And then how your mind and everything inside, your emotional state, how you process and perceive that information still is a reflection of you. So the more you can kind of hold space for the full range of things within your being, and you learn to not identify with it, you can kind of zoom out. And then you have more room for infinity or eternity or the timelessness, or you could just call it the present because it's all the same. You have space for what's unfolding here and now. And through that spaciousness, through that sensitivity and the listening, you can respond on a deeper level versus moving from your immediate fears or desires or bias or all these things. And all that comes through the meditation and all these practices, you see? And what happens is, going from our busy life, our busy day, to just sitting like this and being quiet, most of us, it's like, okay, like, are we done sitting yet? Like, you're not engaged at all. So you have these things where we practice the moving and we get into the movement. You know, we harmonize top and bottom, left and right, inside, outside, our breath, all these different aspects. And over time, whether it's within the hour or within a decade, depends on the person, the mind kind of goes from that wild thing, and it becomes quieter and quieter and more still and still until it's just, you know?
Can you talk about the origins of this a little bit?
of Tai Chi?
Yeah.
So Tai Chi, like I said, it's rooted in Taoism, which is indigenous to like the Chinese culture, and it goes back like thousands of years, at least two, and it's it's such a broad thing that you can have one aspect of it that just looks completely like shamanism, or like indigenous Chinese culture shamanism that way, and then it can branch off into like feng shui, into tai chi, into just acupuncture, into complete sitting meditation, into there's a range of things. But the main thing is to be in harmony with the Tao. Tao means way. And there's nothing like the Tao, because in the West, we might want to immediately say God, but how it's expressed is not so much in the sense of logos, where it's this one will that's kind of being there and exerting its will on everything. The Tao is almost like it just is, and everything kind of springs from it. It's not so much a personality, it's just like this, I often like to say it's like a divine momentum or a divine current that's just going. And everything is born from it, returns to it, everything comes out, expresses, looks around, and then subsides and goes back into it. And the whole point of Taoism is to be in harmony with that flow. To them, a lot of times we're so out of flow with the flow that causes all the suffering and frustration, because we're in complete resistance with what is. So Tai Chi comes around because from that mindset of moving with that divine momentum, moving with nature, moving with what is and being there, people who were fighters or warriors or soldiers, they kind of left war, they just wanted to be at peace, they'd go to temples or be in nature, and they would kind of observe nature, observe the flow of things, and it would sort of, reset them, bring them back to equilibrium, help them through these things. And they found a way to kind of apply what they were observing, applying the flow of nature, the yin and yang, the play of these energies, and the expression of everything in between. They found a way to incorporate it into what they knew, which was fighting. So over time it became, it still branches off still, because you have one aspect where you're very much interested in the martial arts, so fighting, conflict. Then the more spiritual side, where it's more of how you, how do I put this? The more spiritual side of how you embody those energies for your own development as a conscious being. So the first level is always just restoring the body. That's level one. Restoring there's one lineage or teaching of like the Taoist and the energy work, where it's level one is restoring the body, restoring the organs. Level two, they say, is like reversing the aging process. And then level three is more like really deep spiritual work, and it gets more into dreaming and all these other things.
We focus on number 2.
This is it. All of it is that. They all go together. You see?
So is the Tao, is bliss part of being in the Tao, being in that blissful state?
That is a possible experience that one may have when in harmony with the Tao. Nirvana or enlightenment isn't like, it's like one stamp that, every person will experience and express it their own way. But when you know and you see someone else who knows, they know.
So when I was in China, there was a woman who demonstrated Tai Chi to us,
Mm-hmm.
and getting back to the war part, or the fighting part of it, she said if you use the energy of your enemy or your opponent against them.
Yes.
So like when in some of the movement there's a pull through or a push. So that made an impression on me, whereas part of that energy flow that you're talking about. It's almost like you're pulling your opponent into that flow because your opponent was on the outside fighting it.
Right. And what's amazing about that is that at first you have to meet it as in there's someone over there and I have to deal with that. But there's no two. The whole point of yin and yang is to say there isn't two. Because it's just two halves of one. So when that thing, I'll say thing because it's not always just in the shape of someone attacking you. It's whatever feels like antagonistic or aggressive. How you meet that is the play of the Tai Chi in that moment. And it becomes a dance, but you have to lean into the emptiness. The emptiness is what I keep talking about, that spaciousness where you don't identify with anything. And they call that Wuji, which is the mother of Tai Chi. This is before there's any distinction of anything. The minute you say, okay, it's empty, you made one thing. And from that one thing, if you say it's empty, you're saying that there's the equivalent and opposite force of fullness. So then right away you have the two. And that's yin is the empty, yang is the full. And right away you created the two. And right away you create all the possibilities of how those two play. Yeah, it spans out. But the point is, when you keep practicing, you practice the yin and yang and all that so that you can get to emptiness. And from the emptiness, you experience the yin and yang. Again, it's the two playing together. And when you rest in that emptiness, how you meet that person's force takes care of that by itself. And it's something that it's often talked about. They'll say wu wei, which means basically like half effort, half non-effort. So it's almost like, you know those days where it's just like everything's kind of going perfect, you respond perfectly, you drop something, you catch it before it hits the ground, like you just kind of like so present. That's the wu wei, that we work to get back to not working. Or you have to put effort to get to that effortlessness. You know, but it's like this naturalness, and they often compare it to animals and to small children. Before the full mask of the ego is there and that purity is still expressing itself through and they're just kind of there, that's what we all seek to get back to. And they'll often refer to being like an infant, you know? And that infancy is the innocence, but also the innocence in the sense of trusting. And that's the spiritual part of trusting life, trusting the Tao, trusting nature. If you're more of like Judeo-Christian, then trusting God. And that in itself is its own vibration of leaning into and trusting with, leaning into grace. But I can go into a whole other conversation with that.
Yeah.
So I've done a little bit of Tai Chi like some years ago through the International Tai Chi Society. And I had a friend who got into Tai Chi after having a major injury and was like immobile for quite some time and took his first steps again, like in the wheelchair, you know, just moving his arms until he could move a leg, and then eventually he started walking. And I then moved, I'm from Canada, so I had that experience like 20 years ago in Canada, and then I was overseas in New Zealand, the same International Tai Chi Society, and I just gravitated to it and went and did a few classes there. I had another friend who was sick. This was a chronic illness rather than an injury, but all that to say, I have experience with people who have like had incredible recoveries through Tai Chi, and I dipped my toes into it, and I found that the biggest learning outcome for me was like how much patience it requires, because in the International Tai Chi Society, I'd love to hear if like all the different styles are like this, but they had 118 steps. Like, I'm curious if that number is like standard throughout all of them. And also, like, I got just to the point of catching, I think it's like catching the swallow's tail, might be called. And that was within the first 3 steps. But there's all these moves just in one step. And then you go back and do it again, and go back and do it again. And I was like, I gotta wait until I like fall down the stairs and really need to do this so we find the same motivation to show up and move like so slowly, right? And to repeat so many times. And yet I feel like in terms of preventative care and measures, doing that before you're faced with some like major injury like my friends were would be really helpful. And so my question to you is like, is the 118 steps the same in every style? Like what kind of time frame, and this might be a very, of course, like case to case it'd be so different, but like how long does it really take to get to know those steps? And what is like the process or the program that you would maybe describe or have to say like this is how we get through these 118 steps, and what is the this might be just like too many questions. What's like the learning outcome of each one? Like there's a story behind those steps, and they have these visuals like catching the tail. And so what is the purpose of all those steps and the structure of it?
So you have like the 8 posture, 24 posture, you know, it does go up to 108, you know, and all of the different styles usually have at least 108, you know, that's like the number. Originally, the main one is often considered Chen Tai Chi, like that family, and then that family, they just kept it in the village. They didn't teach anyone outside. Over the years, then you get like one person comes in from another family, and okay, now they learned it, but how they express it in their own way, and then that becomes another family. Then they teach another one, so you end up having Yang, Wu, Chen, Wu Hao, Fu, Sun. You know, there's a range of things, but it'll be what happens with the differences is that, like say, if I teach everyone in here. If I teach all of you Tai Chi, there will be as many people in here, there will be that many different versions of it. It's not just because of, it will be because of what you make sense of it, what your range of motion is, all these things, maybe what I think you need most to learn in that moment, so you'll get something that someone else, I didn't feel like they needed to get that part, so they don't have it the same way. You know, it changes. So you'll get things where you'll have one style where it'll be more, here. It can be more upright, you know. It can be more like this, and kind of small. And then when you do it that way, you really just be into the movement or into the energy inside. And you just sort of take your time and go. And you feel from top to bottom. And it's not so much about being physically strong. Then you have other ones where it's like you go down and you're moving from here, you see? And then this, yeah. So the range is kind of like that one would be like you've been practicing since you were a child and you build your body in the strength, or you're athletic, and they want you to have that version of it. You know, it's kind of like that, how it kind of spread out, you know? But the point of the whole choreography, that comes back to the martial part. Because you'll see sometimes they'll repeat a move and it's repeated because one, it's important, or two, it looks the same until you learn it, like, no, this one is actually this way for this other reason. You know, so they'll do it like that, and they'll have these poetic names like grab bird's tail, grab sparrow's tail, you know, golden rooster stands on one leg, you know, all these different things. Snake treat down, which is this move, like that, you know, or sink the needle to the bottom of the sea. And attached to all of that, the imagery is giving you guidance on how the energy is supposed to move inside and flow and all this stuff, you know. Like, sorry. It's, I'm just trying to think of another example just so you can kind of see.
Is it always in reference to nature?
Yes. Yeah. One of the stories of like the founder of Tai Chi is that he saw a crane and a snake fighting. You know, and both of their characteristics really inspired him, and he kind of, it's both of those halves that come together to make it in a way. You know.
What, would you have any like guidance or advice for someone like me who's like, I've been interested in Tai Chi and I've had these experiences seeing friends recover from stuff through it, and I've tried to get into it and I get so restless and I get impatient and I want to learn all of the steps, and I feel like it's going to take me years, you know, to learn them all. Like what would you say to someone like that? He's like, I want it, but I'm like, I struggle to just like slow down and be
But
there.
that you're fighting, working through that is Tai Chi. It's
Right.
not the movements. You see? You can have Tai Chi and just have like 10 steps. It's not about the choreography.
Right.
You know, do you plan on teaching it and passing it down to a bunch of people?
No.
then you don't have to worry so much about remembering or learning that whole thing, you know? The more you can be present with that one piece, the more you make yourself accessible to the greater treasure of it. You see what I mean? Because it always comes back to that emptiness. And in that moment, and it happens constantly, everyone is like, oh, like, because they feel like they're not good enough or they feel like they're not getting it. And I'm like, you've never done this before. It's been a month. Like, just give me a chance. You know, I've been doing this for a long time. There's no such thing as a master in this practice. I mean, master in the sense that you're high above the average of what the average person does with your skill. But what Tai Chi is it's infinite, it's eternal. There's no such thing as a human that's gonna master it.
Right.
You can keep going. The deeper you go, the further you see how much further you can go. The more you see how much further you can go.
So it's not about achieving the 108 steps.
No.
It's about being present with whatever
Right.
steps.
And
you are
see,
working.
there's in Zen, we talk a lot about having the beginner's mind. The beginner's mind is the key to this practice. It becomes more important the more advanced you get. The more advanced you get, the more you think you know, the more you're blocking yourself off from the possibilities. You're becoming rigid, and water is not ice. Tai Chi is not supposed to be like a frozen block of ice, it's water. You know? It's so fluid that it can be hard in the moment because maybe in that moment you need to assert boundaries or you need to be, you know, like that. But you're not stuck there. You can go back to water and yield and be like, okay, I can just move around, you know? So you have to be free enough to be able to change. And the only way you can do that is because you're a beginner, because you say, I don't know, then you're open to what's being presented and you say, oh, okay, this is what I need to do. Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about energy, like whether, and it kind of came up with Sherry's question on the opponents, you know, so then who's the better fighter? If there was a competition, but the energy that is within the person doing the work, but then also accepting the energy from nature, etc.
Okay, so here's where we'll start with that. You have, for these things, and it's something you have to work through until you realize that your body is not, like your skin, we are a bag of skin, we'll put it that way. It is not separating you from outside. This is just merely what you're using because you're experiencing relativity. You use this to kind of measure and make sense, but it doesn't mean that you're separate from anything, anywhere. Anywhen, even, depending how deeply you want to go into that. So it's not so much that just me and you talking, our energies are exchanging right now. You see, both of our energies are present here. Whoever is less caught up in their own stuff has the advantage. You see? So my grand teacher would say that Tai Chi is like the ocean, and you don't want to be the boat. You see? So if you're fighting someone, you make sure you're the ocean and they're the boat. Yeah. So again, the spaciousness. You see? And in that quietness, if the person is open to the quietness, that settles everything there in different ways.
So where's the mind fit into this then?
What do you mean?
I'm back to the opponent. So you've got the energy, so you're the water, not the boat. What's going on in the head?
It's water.
Okay.
Yeah. The whole thing, you, and this is part of the intention aspect of all these things, which is why I'd say like completely just be there with the sitting. Make that completely the reality. If you're doing something, you're writing something, be completely with the writing. If you're washing dishes, completely with that dish. There. Even if you have other thoughts, it's like, okay, it doesn't mean how do I put this? You see those trees out there? They're there, right? Everything is out there. The horses are there, the sky is there, the trees are there. Are they making it impossible for you to listen to me? Right, because you decided to bring your attention to here. But it doesn't mean that those things aren't there anymore. through the non-identification, as you practice that and you let go, you see how many things you're caught up with identifying with. You know? So then you're caught up in the future. When am I going to get the rest of the routine? You know? You know, or if you're so caught up in all that and you're having trouble with it, it's like, and then you bring up some past memory or insecurity or frustration, you bring it to the present. That's not being present anymore. You're being in the past. Your present is caught up in the memory now. Completely just there with the activity. And over time, it changes you. It frees up so much energy. You can point that to whatever it is you need to do. You see? And it's the mind, like, see, I wear this because this says mind. But it's, for this principle of philosophy, it's mind and heart together. So we're very caught up in just mind when we think just the logical mind. There's the emotional body, the instinctual, the intuitive, all of it. You're bringing it all together. And you're learning to listen through the layers and move from that part. So doing these movements and mindful movements or Tai Chi brings you out of the headspace, out of the future, the past, your expectations, whatever it is, brings you right here into the body. And the body, from there, you go into the gut, into the heart, all of it, it all goes together. But the main thing is that sometimes we're so caught up in the head, it doesn't come down into action. And that's what we often find is our disconnect or the disparity is like, I'm thinking it, but why isn't it showing up in my reality? And all of that mindfulness, that slowing down, and like when I say to just savor it, I'm just trying to get you to kind of lean into using a feeling of like more like pleasure or ease or peace to be there with the moment. You know, the other way is that in the martial art part is that because someone's trying to hit you, you have no choice but to be fully there. We're not doing that, so I prefer to use more of ease and things like that, you know? Does that help at all?
I guess I'm on the 100-year plan.
If you're thinking that, add another 100. Just,
I promise it's the last question I'll ask, but since you're working with these horses, what are you finding out from them? What are you learning from them?
it's taken me to a deeper level of my own inconsistency. You see? It's like, because I use my body so much or my intention, I can be like, okay, I'm gonna pick up those keys. And I can put the intention and then I just like, you know, we all do that in our own ways. But because I can do that on such a level, like talk and do all these other things, there's like okay, I'm doing the part physically so I can be whatever inside. There's a lack of the inner accountability to the depth of it, to the bottom. And I see with the horses, any moment, like I can be focused and it was like, okay, like he thinks or she thinks I'm focused, like I can just think about whatever, even if I'm looking. And right away, I'm gonna eat this grass. So sensitive. It's like, like really, I have to be there the whole time, no matter what. And that's why this whole thing has to go so slow, because it's from the earth, your ankle, your knee, your hip, your spine, your shoulder, your crown, you know, even to turn this, how you move from there, how that turns, you're with it, you know. So it took me so much deeper. And even the part where, you know, I can make them feel peaceful or comfortable and everything like that, but then I go like this and move fast to touch their head, and they're like, what are you doing? And I can't remember who it was like, no, like if you're gonna make them feel zen, you have to stay zen. You can't jump in and out of it. Like that's gonna spook them even easier. So constancy, consistency, it has to stay even all the way through. And you're supposed to live like that. You know, so yeah. But when you can you keep working through your stuff and you get with it, it's actually really enjoyable. And you feel it when we do the walking. That's what like seizes you specifically. That gets you. You're supposed to do that with the rest of your life. Bring that walking into everything you do, into traffic, into when something inconvenient happens, you drop something or something unexpected happens in your schedule. Bring that to it. Whatever that is that's there at the depth of you when you're doing that walking, bring that to it. And even when you're feeling the frustration, you bring that to the frustration. peace and all these things, it's never an aversion or an ignoring of anything. You hold that whole thing fully from the vibration of peace. Even if you have to adjust how you're meeting that thing because, again, a boundary, or you have to speak firmly or whatever it is, from within, because you're moving from peace, how it's expressed is different from moving from that agitation. And even if you feel agitated, you can still take the step back and have peace and hold the agitation with peace. Just like you can hold the trees and everything there and still have space for me. You see? Mm-hmm.
So I did martial arts for years, but like part of it was like you pull the energy to use it for that, the force, right? To use that energy to either pull or force or have a punch or gather whatever energy you were in and then move it somewhere else. And that, so how is that different or the same? Like you can use that concept of energy to pick up something that you normally can't pick up, you know, or you gather it up and be able to use that to do something that you normally cannot do.
When you empty yourself, the amount of energy you have access to expands exponentially. If you're thinking of yourself as this one bitty bag of skin, you're always putting limitations. That's the part of, in the movies when they're like, oh, I'm one with everything, like suddenly they have access to like all these other things. And it's because they let go of selfishness, not in the sense of like pride or all these things, but they let go of the idea of a separate self. And therefore everything can work with them. You see? So even when we talk about borrowing the energy, the opponent's force and everything, it's not so much that they're already moving that way. So you meet them there. Just in the same way that if I'm walking aggressively and I'm not looking and I bump into a table. You see? So it's like that person, because they're coming forward with something, it's like, okay, you can go that way. But their face goes to the ground kind of thing, or they walk into a punch. So that's the martial part. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the main thing is the emptying. Because if you're thinking that, if you're going to meet it in the sense that, okay, he's gonna punch and I'm gonna do this, that's not borrowing force. That's you still going like this, but you're calling it something else. It's an emptiness. It's completely just. It's like that. The handshake. You see, just in that moment, you added something else because you have an idea. But if you're completely just open, it's just, what's he doing? Oh, okay. You see? And that little bit where you did a little bit extra because of the idea of what's coming, that would cost you something. Yeah. And it gets more and more sensitive because the deeper you can go into the moment, the more you see how vast the moment is. Yeah. So if you all read or heard of like Eckhart Tolle, and he talks about like the power of now and all those things, Tai Chi is talking about all of that, but you had to figure it out from practicing, and you had to get through the boredom, the frustration, the agitation, all of it, and work through all of that to really get there. Or if you're karmically lucky, you just happen to just drop it all off because someone just said a sentence and it just clicked inside, and you're like, oh, and you just strip all the spiritual clothing off and you're just there with it. Because we're all with it ultimately, we just think that we're not, which is the dilemma.
I have a question. I've been hearing a lot about Qigong lately, and friends, clients, family members, lots of people have been mentioning Qigong. And I looked up Qigong, and it was kind of described as like the gathering. Qigong is like the gathering of energy, and then Tai Chi is the movement of the energy. And I'm wondering if, like, my basic research is right about Qigong being the gathering of the energy and Tai Chi being the movement, and if Qigong is incorporated into Tai Chi, like, are they two completely different practices? Do they share philosophy? Do they overlap?
They're not they're not separate, but you can have someone who does Qigong, but they don't have Tai Chi.
Yeah.
But usually if you're really into Tai Chi, you're gonna have some level of Qigong.
Yeah.
They overlap. So Qi is life force or breath or energy, Gong is the same as when we say kung fu, that's just the westernized way, but it's gong fu, and it means work. So qi gong, energy work, breath work, life force work, however you want to, Gong fu it's more of a concept. Skill acquired through time and effort, or great skill acquired over a long period of time. So if you're like a master chef, architect, mathematician, mechanic, whatever it is, you have Gong fu in that thing. You see? Yeah, and it's the part, what it's talking about is not just the technical part, but you've done it so much that it's a part of you. Like you have the deeper wisdom that someone else is not gonna recognize that thing because it's so in you. Like someone else looking at the same subject won't necessarily pick up the details that you can because you have that wisdom. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the Qigong, that's just, it's not about fighting at all. Well, we'll put an asterisk on that. It's just gathering the energy for the benefit of your being. To restore, if it's depleted, balance the organs, whatever it is. But then, there are different types of Qigong. You have one where they'll talk about like hard Qigong, which is, the expression of it can be hard and intense, but it's also because you're focused more on the tendons and strengthening the body. So if you ever see guys that like break bricks or like they'll break the concrete on their body or all that kind of stuff, that's training the hard Qigong for that. Then you have the softer Qigong, which is if you really go into the Tai Chi and you're moving the energy how it needs to, the Qigong is there in that. And then again, you have different thoughts where just be quiet and move and breathe, and the postures take care of how the energy goes. Then you have the other ones who are more like, no, I want to know all the meridians, and they're trying to move it as they need to. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions? I like this.
I just had a little question years ago in college, years ago. I took a religion course, sister religion, and they tried to cover all major religions, and Taoism was one of them, Taoism, and the very simplification, but when you have a cut of meat in front of you, and you cut with a grain, and that's kind of what it represents the way. You don't fight it, you just go with it.
Yeah.
So is that like an encapsulated sort of?
That's a good way, that's like the path of no resistance kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
But to get to that takes the wisdom and life and experience, and again, beginner's mind, because each cut is gonna look a little different. You're gonna see, oh, okay, I need to cut it. Oh, there's a little spot there, I gotta kind of. There's a story from a Taoist philosopher, the second most important after like Lao Tzu, who's like the main figure, and he gave that analogy of a butcher, and someone was asking him like about his technique because he makes it look so effortless when he's carving like this big oxen. And he talks about, no, like I listen to it. Oh, this part, I have to go this way. Oh, there's a sinew there. I have to change the direction. And before you know it, the piece kind of drops off. And he's like, I've had the same blade for 20 years. I haven't had to sharpen it because of the listening. So it's not just wearing the things down, which we kind of do, especially in our youth, of just like, we just kind of barrel through. Yeah. So much so, again, with the martial part, my teacher told me a story of like, it was a master and a student, and the student got to a very high level, and he went and he started like fighting, and he comes back and he's like, oh, I won, and the teacher looks and he had like a tear on his shirt. He's like, no, you didn't. Just because of that, even though he beat the other guy, the fact that even that was besmirched means that he lost because of where his skill needs to aspire to. So again, as little resistance as possible, But what that also is emptying yourself and moving with that current, like you said.
It's interesting the emptying, from what I know of Taoism, it's distinct in that it has no personification of like the way, the power, the force, the God, like most other main religions have that, even Buddhism, that is also grounded in the Eastern philosophy, and you know, and Buddhism and Taoism have shared landscape, and
Yeah.
yet Buddhism has the Buddha.
Yeah.
And something that's always fascinated me about Taoism is that and of course, like, correct me if I'm misspeaking here, but that there is no naming of it. Like, if you try to name it, if you try to give it attributes, if you say like it's this is its name, it's a man, it's in the sky, like, it's a woman, it's doing this, like any of that is all humanizing
Yeah.
and personifying, and we do that to try to understand.
That makes sense. Yeah.
To make sense of it, but it moves us further away from the Tao,
Yes.
which is like this infinite thing. And this, what you're describing, this emptying that you've mentioned today, is really making me think about that. Like, the purpose is just this continual emptying
Yeah.
into this like infinite abyss.
Yes.
Right?
But it's you.
Yeah.
It's your own. I want to say consciousness, but I don't want you to think of your brain. But we can use that just because I want you to see that it starts with you. You know, no matter where you're looking outside, you're still projecting away. Just go to your own light. And like you said, especially Zen and Chan Buddhism, they play a lot with Taoism. You see? So then you get into like when you talk about Buddha or like being awakened or like sunyata and all these things, that's closer to that.
Right.
You see? And there's one of the patriarchs of Zen, he would say that enlightenment or the way is like drinking water. No one can tell you how it tastes or how cold or warm or whatever it is. You have to go and take a sip yourself. You see? And the best way is to be here right now. And then you'll see, we sip all the time, we just don't know it. You know, because of our ideas of how it should be. So that's why they just use the word Tao to kind of point. Everything else is dancing around it, to let you know that you're dancing around it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that emptying is still you connected to it.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's part of like why we sometimes have the aversion to emptying, because then you feel like isolated or like
Yeah.
lost, or there's a nothingness, but really there's like an everythingness
Right.
that you're trying to connect
And
to.
again, that's because of our idea of what emptiness means from that culture, from that religion, that point of view. It's not nihilistic, you know? And that's often one of the symptoms from like if you're practicing a certain way that's not good, you sometimes become nihilistic, you know, and you're like, oh, none of this is real, nothing matters, blah, 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 blah. And there's stories of people kind of being like that, and the master comes up and like knocks them on the head and is like, did that feel real? Is that real? I'm pretty sure it's real, you know?
I've been studying Tai Chi now for about 55 minutes. But I'm a big fan of the Kung Fu show with David Carradine as a kid. I love that show. But seriously, so I'm trying to reconcile what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that it's about balance, being present in the moment. But if I take like a business context, there's different styles of negotiating with an opponent or a partner. You can try to defeat them and get everything that you want and give them nothing. But the better style is to find a win-win.
Yes.
Okay? So you give a little, they give a little, everyone walks away happy, your partner going forward. How do you reconcile that? Because that sounds like part of what you're saying is that balance. But how do you reconcile that with the fighting style where you're going to lose if I'm going to win and vice versa? Is it balance but not equal balance? Is that what it's really about? Because you're full, I'm empty, or vice versa, versus we're both winning. You know, taking something away from it that's positive. How do you look at this study? That's what I'm confused about.
Balance isn't, it's not, none of this is like you just put a stamp and you're like, that's it. You have to find it for yourself in each thing. You see what I mean? So let's talk, okay, we're talking about having to fight someone, then they'll usually say there are different steps to it. If they're attacking you, then you just try to neutralize them, like just restrain them. If they keep going, then you break something. If they keep going, then you try to knock them out. And then the last thing is that you try to like actually kill them. Like maiming is not the first thing. You just want to get them to stop, to leave you alone. There's often a saying, especially in Shaolin, if you have to fight, you're already lost. because it's so much about non-violence. But it's also it starts with you. So if you're there and you wanting to preserve your life or preserve the life of someone you love, then you will meet that moment and do what you feel is best in that moment, being present to it. You see? If you are someone who is so much about like ahimsa, like non-violence, just pure compassion, refuse, then that is up to you if you're just gonna stay there and take the hit. You know, if you're someone who's very violent and you're just looking for a reason to hit someone, you're not really practicing Tai Chi anyway. You know, but everything is always going to reflect back. So if you're someone who's always looking for trouble, you're always going to have like this force that you're having to deal with because everything looks antagonistic. You know, and then that's the Tai Chi there. Tai Chi in the sense that what you're experiencing is reflecting you, your inner state. That's another harmony. Even if it doesn't look comfortable or pleasant, it's its own expression of harmony because nothing can be without that harmony. But we limit harmony to mean that it looks good or it's blissful or it's comfortable. It's not. It's just how those two things meet.
So are you going into the practice with an idea of what you're trying to achieve, or are you going into it to observe and just understand where you are?
Yes. Both. You can have an intention like, oh man, like I really can't wait to like learn and all this stuff. But over time you have to sort of let it go, you know? And this is the part where being with the teacher, really being in that relationship is almost like having a guru. Like it's like not my will, but yours in a way, because you're trusting their wisdom to guide you along a path that you didn't even know was really there, you know? And this is just talking about the whole thing, not just the fighting part. If you just want to go in for the fighting part, you can do that, but that's not the true depth of what Tai Chi is, what Taoism is, what all the esoteric things. Fighting is the last thing on your mind. Running into someone that you have to, you know, and that might also just be the privilege and luxury of not being in a hostile environment all the time. You know?
Isn't that where the lessons are?
Huh?
Isn't that what kind of like this, the lessons and the learning?
Where?
And within like some of these, like, let's say battles and fights, right?
Mhm.
It's like I think when we go in for battle and each opponent is going for, in it for winning, we
Mhm.
both lose.
Mhm.
It's only when we learn from that battle.
Right.
At least that's been my
Right.
taking from this.
Good. So apply that when you're in traffic,
Mhm.
and then that's the whole thing.
Right.
Do that everywhere you feel uncomfortable, do that.
Right.
Yeah, it's there was a story of like the Buddha. He was sitting somewhere and someone came and just like cursing at him and spitting and just really just being, and he just sat there, and the person just kind of was like, you know, because he wasn't getting a reaction, he just kind of left, and then all the guilt and shame that he tried to put on him, he went back and apologized to him and everything, you know, and the Buddha's like, no, thank you, because you showed me how free I am. I'm not moved at all by anything you had to say. You know, I wasn't caught up in any of that whatsoever. Yeah. Yeah, so they often say that like emptiness like that is like if the person is being antagonistic and they spit up to the sky, the spit's gonna come right back on them. Right, so the more you empty yourself and you're not there to identify with that antagonizing energy, you kind of get out of the way of it, it will back to them in its own way, you know, and that's the part where we talk about karma, because whatever you're holding in your heart, whatever you project will be reflected back to you. Mm. Yeah. Yes?
Yeah, I just had a big exhale, I know.
Yeah.
If there are any more questions, then maybe we can, if people have the time, can we still go outside and do some
Oh,
rules?
sure.
Do you have time?
Yeah, I got time. I just like talking about this stuff.
I wanna make sure that we get a little flavor too.
Sure. Any other questions before we move our bodies for a few minutes? Okay. So lift your crown up, relax your shoulders down, and feel your feet. The 10 toes, follow the foot, and the heel. No beginning, no end. Just breathe and be here. If your mind gets carried away, just come back to your feet on the ground and back to your crown, pressing up. Pick the hands up. Fingers up. Come together. Right fist, cover with your left hand. So yin is being covered by yang. Or aggression is being covered with peace. And bow. Good. Bend your knees, step out with your left foot. And set your palms. Yes. Press your crown up. And be aware of 5 points. The one crown, the heart of the 2 palms, and the sole of the 2 feet. And just feel when you breathe in that those points expand. And as you exhale, they close. You can try to be aware of all 5 at once, or just focus on the palms, or just the feet, or just the crown. Remember, coordinate with your breath. When you inhale, it expands. When you exhale, it closes. Yeah. Pick the hands up. Keep being aware of those 5 points. Relax the hands for a moment. So we'll do this a little longer, but I'm going to give you some more to add to the intention. This is called tree standing. You're supposed to kind of shape yourself. Thank you. Shape yourself like a tree. So your crown presses up. These are the leaves. Your fingers are the leaves as well. Your body's the trunk, and your feet and your toes are the roots. You don't have to grab the ground, but kind of just open, feel your toes kind of open and settle. And melt, your feet melt into the earth. And as the roots grow down, the trunk and the leaves grow up to the sky. And then this part is like a trunk that you hit it, and it's like the axe just bounces off. There's a bounciness coming. And it comes from inside like a circle expanding. So if you had like a beach ball here that just filled this whole spot, and anyone that pressed kind of just bounced because of it. You can feel it here in the middle, under your armpits, and even here between your legs. down. Up. So that one, if you're really into Tai Chi, you do this for 20 minutes. You just stand there. Yeah. So if you want, you can start with that.
Thinking the same thing.
Inhale and pick up. Exhale and sink. Inhale, pick up. Exhale and sink. So 2 ways you can kind of visualize and engage the mind for this movement. One is as if you had these helium balloons tied to each wrist, and it just kind of picks the wrist up. And it's more so the mind, not so much your muscles that you're engaging. And it's like it just lets your wrists float up. Still inhale and expand with that. Good. The other way. You feel your feet connected to the earth. Your whole foot. And it's like that pressure from the earth comes up. That energy is like pressure, like the fire hydrant. That pressure that comes out of that, that's what's coming up and into the body. And it comes up through the feet, through each joint, ankle, knee, hip, shoulder, elbow, wrist, all the way up. And then it empties. And you inhale and it expands. Exhale and release. When you get to the top, feel your head is full and your fingers are full. And then empty. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And your body moves as one. Not one like you're this block that goes like that, but one where the energy ripples up all the way top to bottom. Yes. So like those things with the fan and it's like, yes. That's from the earth. It comes up and then it empties. Yes. Good. Go down to your feet. Good. So detail for everyone. It has to go through each joint to the fingers. And then it empties. To get to here, you have to go through here. This empties. This is empty. Down. So just be aware of the elbow. It's not so much like you're painting like this, but broad strokes. Good. Free of the elbow. Yes. Oh, wow. practice or something? And you're not telling me? Oh, okay, good.
Kissing cousins.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, they have Taoist yoga. They do. India was a big influence. They often say that the knowledge came and went east. So depending, they'll say from India to China and then to Japan. Good. One more together. One more together. That means move with me. Together. Inhale. Yes. Exhale. Good. Fix your right foot. Turn. Next one. So from inside, we expand outward. And then close. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. When I'm feeling more prayerful, I like to do this, but move from like my heart and from compassion. So you can either just expand out to the limits of your body and just hold your own being with compassion, with loving breath, loving awareness, loving energy. Or if you're feeling more expansive, you can kind of feel that you expand and hold the whole earth or the universe or the block or the state, whatever your range, whatever your imagination allows for. It's like you expand and your love fills that whole space. You exhale and you come back deep inside your own being until it disappears. It's so small, it just vanishes. Then you expand out. Good. Savor it. Okay, a couple more. We'll go together. Inhale, expand. Exhale, close. Now gather. Like the analogy is like you're casting a fishing net and you're scooping up all that fish or that energy. You're bringing it up through the body, up the spine. Inhale, inhale, inhale. Exhale, out the crown. Then again, cast it above. Bring it in through the crown. Inhale, inhale, down the spine. And down out the feet. Cast the net. Inhale. When you pass the heart, you can exhale. Bringing that earth energy, or right here, that heavenly energy, and you allow it to pour in. Let it nourish, restore, heal, feed, balance every cell, every tissue, every organ, every fiber of your being, all the way down to your feet. And you release it down into the earth. Then you gather up that nourishing, stable earth energy. Let it come up. Ground you, stabilize, bring you to balance and equilibrium, and release it out. So still you're like a tree, taking in that heavenly energy, that sun, down, out of your roots. Then you gather from the roots and release out the leaves. Inhale. Good. Couple more. Inhale. Left foot comes in. One more of that. So back of your hands come together. Then up the center. Inhale. And down the sides. Exhale. Hands up. Together. Right fist, left hand. Wow. Good. Thank you.